Well, all hell has officially broke loose. And the way it's looking right now, the United States government is going to strike Iran sometime soon. Things have not calmed down in the Middle East. These boats that I talked about a couple of days ago, those warships that were heading to Iran, they're already in the Middle East. And Donald Trump is sending more escalation towards Iran, and Iran has responded. So I would say in the next week or so, it looks like the US government is going to strike Iran. When that happens, I just want you to remember what this guy said here. He's a former CIA analyst. He's been warning people about this for quite some time. His name is Philip Giraldi. Listen to this.
Sure, you've all heard the expression that a friend does not let a friend drive drunk. Well, the United States has been driving drunk for quite some time, and that dangerous behavior has to some extent been encouraged by Israel and its many supporters in Washington. I also would not doubt that Israel, accustomed to behaving with impunity towards its alleged friend and patron in Washington, might manufacture a pretext to draw the U.S. into a new conflict. If the United States goes to war with Iran in the near future, it will not be because Tehran actually threatens America. It will be because Israel and its powerful lobby in the U.S. have succeeded in creating an essentially false casus belli to mandate such action. While it is
Everyone, let's remember that. He warned people it would not be because Iran attacked the U.S. It's because Israel has moved forward with this persuasion of the United States to get the U.S. involved. The reality is Israel knows they cannot beat Iran on their own. Benjamin Netanyahu for years has been trying to get the U.S. involved in some type of conflict with Iran, just like he convinced the U.S. that they needed to get involved in Iraq. And we all know how that turned out. This would require American troops. This is not something that can just work with the IDF, which means we could be potentially looking at another Afghanistan or Iraq all over again, which I am vehemently against. But here we are.
It's often observed that everyone spies on everyone else, particularly true if one is referring to our own NSA. Espionage is a high-risk business that most countries are extremely careful when they are spying on friends because of fear of blowback. Israel, which relies on Washington for billions of dollars in aid and also for political cover in international fora like the UN, does not spy discreetly, largely because it knows that few in Washington will seek to hold it to account. Israel, where government and business work hand in hand, has obtained significant advantage by systematically stealing American technology with both military and civilian applications. The U.S. developed technology is then reverse engineered and used by the Israelis to support their own exports. The GAO concluded that Israel conducts, and this is a quote, conducts the most aggressive espionage operation against the United States of any U.S. ally. So the answer to the question, is Israel an ally of the United States, is most definitely no. Is it even a friend? Well, I suppose there are all kinds of friends in the world, but if you judge.
So, no, I thought he made a good point there that Israel is not a real ally of the United States. They're willing to allow U.S. soldiers to die for this greater Israel project that they won. Again, we've shown the videos on this channel multiple times of Benjamin Netanyahu speaking to Congress years ago, telling them that they needed to get involved in Iraq, that they needed to go after Saddam Hussein. Think about all the U.S. soldiers that died because of that. They don't care. They've been known to sacrifice their own people. We've seen this as well. Anything to accomplish that mission. Those ships that headed to Iran, they are there. They are there in the Middle East. And you don't send warships to Iran unless you're going to try to start something and start something soon. Iran is not taking this lightly, and they have issued a response They do not appreciate being bullied into bending over backwards for Donald Trump. Essentially, Donald Trump wants the regime to be overthrown. As I said before, regardless how you feel about the regime, the situation in Iran, I don't live there. If you live there, you can always come on and tell me and let me know how you feel about it. But I don't live there. I live right here. And this is not something that the US should get involved with. It's not something that Israel should get involved with. I'm 100% against these regime changes, period. I don't care what country it is. This always ends badly. And it's really not on us to tell them what to do with their country. But this is where we're at now. And I just want to show you what is coming out of Iran.
Donald Trump has again warned Iran he will launch an attack if Tehran doesn't make a deal. In a social media post, Trump said a massive armada is heading to Iran. It is moving quickly with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose. He says it is a larger fleet headed by the great aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln than that sent to Venezuela. Hopefully, he says Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons, in all caps, as you can see, one that is good for all parties.
So this is a trick. There is no negotiation. I have heard since I was a kid, Iran is building nuclear weapons. They're going to attack the United States. I've heard that since I was a kid. And a generation before me heard, I know the Gen X people, I know you guys heard it too. Boomers, you probably heard it too. Like, I've been hearing this forever. Now, I don't think that any country should have nuclear weapons. None. That being said, that would also mean that Israel cannot have nuclear weapons. So if you're Iran and you know that Israel wants to destroy your very existence, you know they don't want you there. Netanyahu said Iran is the curse in front of Congress. So if you know that, why would you put yourself in a vulnerable position so that Israel can just come in and wipe everybody out and you can't fight back? Does everybody not remember what happened to Gaddafi? This is what the US government does. They say, we want to negotiate. Let's talk this over. Barack Obama sat up there and shook Gaddafi's hand and then killed him. There is no negotiating with the United States. There's none of that. They don't want you there, period. So it's a trick. If it was just about a negotiation, he wouldn't have sent the warships there. So once again, who is the aggressor?
Time, he says, is running out. It is truly of the essence. As I told Iran once before, make a deal. They didn't, and there was Operation Midnight Hammer, a major destruction of Iran. The next attack, he says, will be far worse. Well, earlier, Tehran denied President Trump's claims that it had requested negotiations with the United States. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said diplomacy cannot take place under military threat.
Our position is precisely that diplomacy exercised through military threats cannot be effective or constructive. If they want negotiations to take shape, they must abandon threats, excessive demands, and the raising of irrational issues. Negotiations have their own rules. They must be conducted on an equal footing, based on mutual respect and aimed at mutual interests.
Let's put ourselves in their position. Imagine if someone surrounded your house with all these, like, I don't know, military vehicles. Let's put it that way. Imagine if your house was surrounded with military vehicles and they said, hey, we want you to give your house to us. Now, you already told them that is your house and you paid for it, and you're not going to just give your house away. But they want your house because they want the land. And you told them no. So they surround your house with all these military grade vehicles and say, we need to negotiate, make a deal or else. But the deal that they want to make involves you being removed. They're trying to make you say yes under pressure. How is that okay? How is that right? It's not right. And honestly, it's disrespectful that you would have U.S. military warships surrounding this country and you're saying, let's make a deal.
Well, we have correspondents covering this story from the U.S. and Iran. First, we go to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett in Washington, D.C. Kimberly, so a ratcheting up of the rhetoric there from President Trump.
Yeah, this is something that Donald Trump has said repeatedly in recent days. The threat of the Armada, the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is now in the Middle East area in those waters. This is something that the U.S. president has tried to ratchet up in terms of pressure. And essentially what the U.S. president is saying with this latest threat is that Iran needs to agree to a deal to limit its nuclear program and to prevent the development specifically of nuclear weapons. So what we know is that the U.S.
What we know is that now the position has changed again. Just a week or so ago, Donald Trump said that the U.S. is going to intervene in Iran because they're killing protesters. So first you were saying that you may strike Iran because they're killing protesters in Iran. Now, we went over this on the show and showed you that there were a bunch of Mossad agents who were actually infiltrating those protests, killing people there. Right. It's right on camera, right on video. So I guess that didn't work. So now the Trump administration says, oh, we might strike Iran because they're building nuclear weapons. So which is it? And how are the American people so blinded by this shit? How is it that Americans are so easily fooled? And I say this because if you go to other countries, they don't fall for this. They know what the U.S. government is. They know the U.S. empire. So it's just really weird to me. I'm like, you guys don't pick up on the fact that the president just told you it was about protests. And then he said the deaths during the protests have stopped. Now they're saying they're going to attack them anyway because, oh, they're building nuclear weapons. Now it's a different reason. The point is they just want to attack them. They don't need a reason. And they want to do so on behalf of Israel because Israel said Iran is the curse and they want them gone.
U.S. president is using past U.S. action against Iran as the leverage and the threat to get Iran to the negotiating table. He has also said repeatedly in recent days he believes Iran wants to make a deal, but he wants to see that deal made imminently. And that's why he is, in essence, turning the screws to put on the pressure.
All right. Ali Hashem in Tehran, how is this being viewed there, this new threat by the American president? How will the Iranians be receiving this?
Well, this threat comes as just part of this sequence that's been going on over the past days. We've seen the military buildup in the Arabian Sea, and of course, a lot going on behind closed doors. Mediators are trying their best to come out with a solution because the situation right now is really very serious. Now we're hearing from Iran's deputy foreign minister, Mr. Gharib Abadi, saying that Iran's priority is not sitting with the United States, rather having a 200% readiness to face any attack. This is a few minutes ago. Also, we've heard of several phone calls today, and it seems a lot is going on the diplomatic side, a lot of attempts to try bridge the gap, which doesn't seem to be till the moment bridged. The Iranian foreign minister received calls from the foreign minister of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. These calls are all in this sequence. So what we're hearing from the Iranians, readiness to fight and also readiness to talk whenever the negotiations are proper and they are not a kind of dictations on them.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can't talk to people in that way, but they said that they are ready to fight. So they've had time, to prepare. In fact, I want to show you this so you can see what it looks like for yourself. The American forces have completed their buildup near Iran, which certainly indicates that the military operation against Iran has been decided upon and will be executed. And you can see the image here. Here's Iran in the orange, And you can see here's the Abraham Lincoln CSG right here, getting closer and closer. Then, of course, you have the military bases that are surrounding as well. There's also other ships here in the Mediterranean Sea. So, like I said, they don't go there just for nothing. Number one, you have to use a lot of fuel to get there anyway. So, right. So they're not going to go there just for nothing. They're ready to go. Now, the foreign minister of Iran, I want you to see what he said about Donald Trump's threats. Everyone listen to this.
Quote, our brave armed forces are prepared with their fingers on the trigger to immediately and powerfully respond to any aggression against our beloved land, air, and sea. The valuable lessons learned from the 12-day war have enabled us to respond even more strongly, rapidly, and profoundly. At the same time, Iran has always welcomed a mutually beneficial, fair, and equitable nuclear deal on equal footing and free from coercion, threats, and intimidation, which ensures Iran's rights to peaceful nuclear technology and guarantees no nuclear weapons.
Such weapons have no place in our security calculations, and we have never sought to acquire them. Okay, so that's coming from Said. I want you to focus on this part here. The valuable lessons learned from the 12-day war have enabled us to respond even more strongly, rapidly, and profoundly. So remember, they already had practice. Remember that back and forth between Israel and Iran, and Israel backed off because they realized, okay, some of their, missiles are getting through the Iron Dome. We need to, cool it for a second. That was another time where Israel was the one that struck first and then expected the U.S. to just come in and save their ass. So we're looking at all hell breaking loose here. So Iran had practice during that 12-day war, ladies and gents. Jeffrey Sachs, who's been on the show before, he laid this out so beautifully here. I think this is on Glenn's show. Listen to what he said here.
And so now we have a carrier task group, strike group on its way to attack Iran. So an attack is imminent, I think. The goal here has never been negotiation. Whenever there has been negotiation, Israel has jumped up and down saying, don't negotiate. Of course, a nuclear agreement was reached with Iran a decade ago. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA. It was actually ratified by the UN Security Council Resolution 2231 on the 20th of July, 2015. Then Trump ripped it up in his first term. So there's never been any desire by Israel to have a negotiated settlement. And since the United States does what Israel tells it to do, there has never been a readiness of the United States to have real negotiations with Iran. And Trump proved that again last summer, because we can recall that when Israel, with U.S. support, bombed Iran, which was on the 12th and 13th of June, 2025. That was 2 days before scheduled negotiations between the United States and Iran. So this whole idea that this is about Iran negotiating is phony. This is a regime change operation that's being carried out through hybrid warfare, meaning you try cyber warfare, you try street unrest, you try crushing the economy, and you try bombing, you try assassinations. They're trying in every which way to overthrow this government. And Trump, being Trump, blasts this out that, well, if you don't do what we say, this is like Venezuela. What does it say? This fleet is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. It's pure thuggery.
Yeah, I'm serious. Like, it's a mafia. It's a mafia. They just it's we're the bully. Like, we're the bully. Like I said, I don't see another country's ship surrounding the United States of America. Scott Ritter said something that he's getting some heat for. Scott Ritter doesn't think that Iran should wait. Listen to what he said here. Oh, also on Glenn Deason's show. Glenn had everybody this week. But listen to this. Some people, you guys let me know what you think he said here, but how you feel about it. But some people have a problem with what he said. Listen to this.
If I were the decision maker in Iran, the Abraham Lincoln would already be sunk, American bases would already be destroyed, Israel would be eliminated, and I'd be carrying out massive operations against the Kurds in Iraq, the Baluch, I'd be wiping out Avaz, I'd be killing anybody suspected of the of MEK ties. I'd be sending assassination teams around the world to kill the Shah's son. I would kill everybody. But that's just me. I'm not Iranian. I'm just a bloodthirsty son of a bitch who doesn't believe in standing by and getting hit in the face first. The Iranians, unfortunately for them, are very civilized. They're very proper. And I believe that their government still holds out hope that war can be avoided. And so they're not going to take, I believe, the actions that would be necessary to preempt this. Iran has every right to. I mean, the statements made by the United States and Israel already justify this. There's no doubt that there's an imminent.
Yeah. So this is 2x speed. The person who shared this video is 2x speed. But I think the point that Scott was making is that Iran should not sit back and wait for the U.S. to do the right thing. Because perfect example of that is, again, look at what happened to Gaddafi, right? But again, it goes to show you that Iran is not the aggressor here. And I think they have to be careful with that too. They don't want to be seen also as the aggressor because people already have their opinions about them. Now, this China is not happy about this. And you got to see what they said here, how China aims to block Mossad operations in Iran. People need to pay close attention to this here. China is closely monitoring the extent of Israeli intelligence Mossad penetration into Iran, especially after the events of 2025 and the Israeli strikes deep inside Iran. The most prominent features of the Chinese position and actions in this regard are embodied in the Chinese assessment of the Pandora's box of global security risk. Chinese observers and military analysts warn that Mossad's success in penetrating Iran intelligence agencies and sensitive facilities has opened a Pandora's box of global security risk. Beijing believes that Israel's ability to plant agents and disable Iranian air defense and radar systems from within represents a new pattern of intelligence warfare that necessitates vigilance and the strengthening of Chinese national security measures as well. And another thing that it says here regarding China political and diplomatic stance on American and Israeli interference in Iran. China affirms its continued opposition to any foreign intervention in Iran's internal affairs. It considers Tehran's stability a strategic interest, particularly given the 25-year comprehensive strategic cooperation agreement between the two countries. Beijing expresses concern about the escalating intelligence and military confrontation between Israel and Iran and consistently calls for restraint to avoid disrupting energy and trade routes in the region. And this is another thing, right, that people may not have been aware, but there is that relationship that China has with Iran. And I was going to tell you right now, China is basically looking back and they're like, look, I don't know what's going on across the ocean with you guys, but if you fuck up our money, we might have to come for you. And basically, you know, I don't know how China feels about, you know, like the Zionism and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. But China is looking at the business aspect of all this. And they're like, you mess with our money, we might have to intervene. We may have to get involved. And thus, I don't think everybody understands that going after Iran is not on the island by itself. Iran has a relationship with China. They have a relationship with Russia. They have a relationship with other powerful countries. So the United States government would like for you to believe that Iran is on an island by itself, but it's not. This is a big part of the problem that I think that we have. And even Saudi Arabia, they called this out a couple of days ago. Saudi official, when our refinery was attacked, we asked the US for help, but they stayed silent. Now, as we try to make peace with Iran and reduce tensions, America is deliberately sabotaging the process. They want war. The US is a war empire. It cannot survive without conflict. You can hear some of this here. It's not translated, so my apologies.
سيفتح ممرات جديدة للصراع الذي بالكاد يعني نجحت دول المنطقة في إطفاء لهيبه. اليوم تشعر المنطقة بأنها في حالة استقرار، في حالة سلام. التحرك الأمريكي ربما يعيد الصراع للحيوية من جديد.
دكتور مبارك، يعني نريد أن نتساءل أيضا، يعني لربما الخطوة الأمريكية بررتها الولايات المتحدة بالمضايقات التي قامت بها إيران لبعض السفن التجارية.
Just wanted to play a little bit of it for you. I'm sorry, guys. There's no translation, so I can't. I'm sorry about that one. But then also, I think, Mel, she had a really good point here. Mel said, serious question. Why the hell would Iran agree to stop producing ballistic missiles? Everyone saw what happened to Gaddafi. They'd be out of their freaking minds to agree to that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say other than it's so obvious. They know that would make them defenseless. They know that they will put themselves in a vulnerable position, which is what Israel wants. Israel and the US, they want them to be in a vulnerable position. So this is continuing to escalate. And I feel like I got to tell you, sometimes I think I have to take a meditation break. The amount of chaos that has happened under this administration, sometimes it's hard to keep up with it. I feel like Donald Trump is trying to create as much chaos as possible so that you forget about those damn Epstein files. And I'm here to tell you, don't forget about it. I just saw recently Marjorie Taylor Greene was just on Kim Iverson's show the other day, and she was talking about it as well. And the reality is they want you to look away from that. And if he can continue to have all this chaos, I'm going to take Greenland, I'm going to bomb Iran, I'm going to do this. If they keep turning your head this way and that way with all this other things that are happening throughout the world, then slowly but surely, their hope is that Epstein will make its way out of the news cycle. But it won't on this show. But this is where we're at now, ladies and gentlemen. All hell breaks loose. So I would say wait for it, be very well prepared. The next couple of days are going to be pretty tense. I do have Professor Morandi coming on to the show this weekend. We're going to record that interview. It'll premiere on Sunday, and I'm going to get his take about this as well, because I think they're really going to try to strike them again. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.